So there's, I guess, been an escalation in the Charlie Kirk succession wars. So, in case you have forgotten or were not paying attention, beloved conservative podcaster and I guess activist. Really, he went to colleges and debated with children. So I don't know what you call it. That on the right, that's called being an activist. So we'll just call him an activist. A beloved conservative podcaster, activist, and receiver of billionaire money, Charlie Kirk, was killed in September of this year, September 10th to be precise, while debating children on the campus of Utah Valley University. Since that death, the various people who orbit around Charlie Kirk to vary at various distances, right, have been picking clean or trying to pick clean the carcass of, well, I guess the not quite dead body of TPUSA, right? Because Charlie Kirk was Turning Points USA. He was the, figurehead, and what a head it was, of Turning Point USA. And so in his absence, there doesn't seem to be a clear direction for the organization to go in, or for all of the money the organization was taking in to go in, or where all of the fans who are currently like looking for someone else to be the new Charlie to go in. And so it's incentivized a lot of different people, Charlie Kirk's wife, Charlie Kirk's like media compatriots like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, etc., to all make various plays for various elements of what they want from this, right? I I think the one that we focus the most on, obviously, is Candace Owens, because this has really become a core part of her brand since it's happened, right? She has really used Charlie Kirk's dead body to jettison herself to the top of the podcasting charts. And, she's not the only one who's trying. So, I can't say I can't say she has been anomalous in her willingness to do so. But she has certainly been, I would say, the most successful in capturing the imaginations of the people. Perhaps you disagree with me, perhaps not. Recently, she's earned the ire, and she's been, a lot of different actors within that space, right? Because right now, the Charlie Kirk assassination succession wars are breaking out along the same lines as the ongoing schism within the Republican Party. The one that's been happening, largely out in the opens in the media space since Donald Trump became president again and started to openly renege on some of the promises that the, furthest to the right elements of his base were most looking forward to, mostly the conspiratorial ones, right? Obviously, those aren't those aren't the only promises he has reneged on, considering the fact that the cost of living is higher than ever, right? But for the people who watch a lot of right wing content, the spectacular ones that he has let go to the wayside, like getting rid of all vaccines, or releasing the Epstein files, full transparency on aliens, things like that have opened the floodgates for a larger schism to break out on the right. That also maps onto, like, it shouldn't surprise you, the distinct differences in material conditions between some of the older members of the party who are a lot more well integrated into the economy, own homes. So like boomer age and older members of the Republican Party who watch Fox News, who are more likely to consume the more, I think, analogous to Fox News, or at least better integrated within the Republican machine, independent far right media like Ben Shapiro's show, Matt Walsh, the Daily Wire stuff, Stephen Crowder, things like that. People who are more likely to consume that versus the further right elements of the MAGA movement, like the Groypers, the like really far online, the really deeply online, younger part of the Bit Party that was excited about all of the, again, more esoteric promises Trump was making, and also can't afford houses, can't afford or don't see for themselves a likely well integrated into the economic system future unless it's through some sort of like scam, like, crypto or something like that. And so since he's been largely a failure for, like, well, everybody, but primarily when you're looking at right-wing spaces, Trump has been a failure for that latter group. There's been a comparable schism in right-wing media, amongst figures who have decided to, stake their brand and possibly like their like media future on like the younger generation of more conspiracy addled, more anti-Israel, less like well integrated into the economic machine wing of the party. The same part of the party that, like, let's say for example, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, is now heavily exemplary of. Same with Thomas Massey, right? I think, people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are betting on this more conspiratorial, more like anti-Israel, equally as fascistic and bigoted, if not more, wing of the party being the future. And in doing so, she's made an enemy of some of the right-wing media figures that try to stay more, well integrated with the Republican Party machine for like access, for, donor money. One of those figures, in my opinion, you might disagree, is Tim Pool. I don't watch as much Tim Pool as other people do, but, we've seen some Tim Pool. And so recently he's taken a shot at Candace over some of the more unhinged elements of her conspiracy theory related to the role of France, I think, the French Prime Minister Macron's wife, the French president's wife, in the transvestigation thereof, and also like the Egyptian airman connection. But over the weekend, things seem to have heated up in Tim Pool's life as the result of a reported shooting at his compound. So I think, considering this might be semi-related to him trying to take on Candace, I think what we should do is we'll start with the news about the shooting on Tim Pool's compound. Then we'll move into Tim Pool's criticism of Candace Owens' conspiracy and her role in sowing division in the Republican Party. Then we'll look at Candace Owens' response, right? Because we actually watched a decent amount of the video that Tim is going to be criticizing, I think with Milo Yiannopoulos, the one about like the Egyptian airline and stuff like that. So we're pretty well informed about what Tim is going to be commenting on. But let's start with this clip from Live Now Fox, whatever. Yeah, Live Now from Fox. Tim Pool shooting. New details after gunshots fired at right-wing podcaster's home. Okay.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, and we are following a developing story that we have been tracking here for a little more than 24 hours after a shooting. Gunshots fired there at the home of Tim Pool, who, of course, is known as a big political commentator with millions upon millions of fans on different social media platforms. Now, I do want to start.
Did he pay for them to say that?
Because we heard from Pool on social
it's like a mugshot.
as he gave the
I hate to judge people by their appearances again. But like with the hat on, it just looks like he's the person, the shooter. It makes him look like the offender.
Here because we heard from Pool on social media Saturday as he gave the initial information saying a vehicle approached.
Have you seen this man?
Opened fire. No one was hurt. Our security team is reviewing the incident and will be relaying the report to appropriate law enforcement. This is the price we pay for speaking out against evil. He went on to say, my immediate thought is someone was trying to scare us, but we have a security gate and armed guards, and it's possible this deterred something more serious. Now, earlier today, he posted this follow-up saying, security believes 3 shots were fired. We are in contact with police and FBI. Thank you for everyone who reached out. If anyone has archived Chicken City, the shots should be audible. Unfortunately, we do not archive the live stream. This would be Friday between midnight and 1 a.m. Important to note, he's asking folks to kind of listen in if they do have that podcast somewhere, because you should be able to hear those gunshots fired. Now, reaction is coming in from all over here. We did hear
Chicken
from
City? Is that like a
Congresswoman
podcast he
Marjorie
has?
Taylor Greene posting, quote, "This is terrifying. I'm glad everyone is okay. Everyone must stand together against this type of political violence and intimidation, no matter who it happens to, whether you like them or not."
I like how I like how she had to add whether you like them or not to the end of that. Like that seems like an unnecessary addition. Especially when like you guys are kind of on the same side, right? No matter who, no matter who it happens to, whether you like them or not. Like if it happened to someone I liked, I would probably leave out those like last two sentences.
No matter who it happens to, whether you like them or not. Former Congressman Matt Gaetz simply writing, "So sorry to hear." And we also heard
Oh, wow. Sorry that happened to you.
from Andrew Colvette. He is with Turning Point USA, saying, quote, "This is awful. Prayers for you and your team. Please stay safe." Now, all of this, of course, coming months after the assassination of Turning Point's leader, Charlie Kirk. He was fatally shot as he spoke to a large university crowd in Orem, Utah. That was back in September. As for
Large
the
might be
latest on the
overselling
shooting
it.
here at the home of Tim Pool, no one was injured, but labeled,
I just keep I just keep thinking he's the offender because they just like pop it up and he's in like he's looking all dour in the beanie and I'm like, oh, like look at this guy.
wing podcaster. Poole does have millions of followers on social media across several platforms and is
Well, I mean, at the risk of again victim blaming, which is a bad habit I've seemed to cultivate over this particular stream, and I mean episode of this particular stream. I don't know if I believe that this happened the way Tim Pool is presenting it as having happened. Maybe that's problematic to say. I, you know, I would be willing to believe that like he heard gunshots near his compound in West Virginia, but the reality is that anytime you live outside of a blue city, despite what right-wingers want to believe, like you're going to hear gunshots all the time. I lived in Brooklyn for the majority of my life and I maybe heard gunshots that could be identified as gunshots a handful of times at most, at most, and that's like really overestimating it. People who grew up in like the suburbs of the South or like somewhere in like a suburb of Georgia or any red state out of like a blue city in that red state, they hear gunshots all the time. People are always shooting off in their backyard. People are always getting drunk and driving around and shooting off their like sidearm into the air. That's just what people do. Like if you don't want to hear gunshots, then move to a city. Like if that's just the reality. Like if you don't want to hear gunshots every night, you got to move to a city if you live in America. Everywhere else, people are getting drunk and like lighting like bonfires in the backyard and shooting off into the air. Like that's just the way it works out there. So unless the ATF finally decided to storm his compound over the weekend, or I guess Friday between midnight and 1 a.m. hour, like I just don't think it happened the way he's like, he imagines it's happening. Whether he believes it's happening that way, I can't say because who knows? Maybe he was genuinely frightened for his life, but like I can't help but also feel like, there's various ways in which people are trying to like reference or index Charlie Kirk's death in order to like boost their own personal brand, whether it's like inventing conversations or like heavily curating certain conversations that they had with Charlie that are all about how much he respected them or some shit like that. Like, or in the case of people like Candace Owens and maybe Tim Pool, like, pretending like you're next, like your life is also in danger. Like this just seems like the new meta. Like this seems like it's going to be like the new meta on the far right. Like last week, Candace was saying that like, Charlie's death was a sign that someone was going to come after her, and this is just, right wingers are just going to always be claiming like this new level of victimhood, like someone's out to assassinate them, and they might actually believe it because like that's just part of their like pathology. So I don't know if I believe this personally, but if you feel like that's me jumping to conclusions, you may not have seen this before, but this is from a lot of people are sharing this, but this particular account is called Right Wing Cope, and it's talking about Tim Pool's previous instances of claiming someone like shot at his compound. And so this is from December 5th, 2022. Wow. So I can't help but notice not only is this another instance of someone shooting at Tim Pool's home, it basically happened at the exact same time of year, which kind of to me sounds like a cry for help. Like if every December around the holiday season, like, you start saying like people are just taking shots at my home, like everyone look at me. Everyone look at me. I don't know. That's suspicious to me. Maybe I've been watching too much Candace Owens, but that's a little suspicious to me. I'm sure Candace will have a commentary on that too. But to me, I'm like, oh, so like every December 5th, someone just happens to take a pot shot at you. every Saint Nicholas, someone just happens to take a pot shot at you. Okay, so this is from December 5th, 2022. There's a 9mm bullet lodged in my kitchen now. I can't say I'm surprised this happened after the wave of doxing and threats made against us. Okay. And then the one from this weekend or Friday that or the news mentioned is this one. Last night, a vehicle, 3 years apart, like not the same. This is kind of funny. Like 3 years apart, not the same. I thought this was the same photo, but like not the same photo. But like basically the same. Like why even change it? Like why? Anyway, yeah, so this is the one they read on the news. Last night a vehicle approached our property and opened fire. No one was hurt. Our security team is reviewing the incident and will be relaying the report to appropriate law enforcement. This is the price we pay for speaking out against evil. This account claims that there hasn't been this account that's posting this claims that there hasn't been a released police report about this, and I believe that. I would love to see a police report about it. Obviously, filing a fake police report is a crime, and so a lot of times when people like lie about crimes being committed against them online, if they're like savvy, they aren't stupid enough to file a fake police report because like the police might actually investigate it, but the police also might, considering it being West Virginia, might just tell him what I said and what this first commentator says here too, which is that he shouldn't have moved to West Virginia if he was afraid of guns, which is like, yeah, not to put too fine a point on it, but people ride around, I would imagine, West Virginia all the time, like shooting out guns in the forest or whatever. Like he lives on a compound. Like people aren't going to like storm it, like unless it's the ATF.